This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good morning, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How we doing today on a Tuesday? It's the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. We're coming at you live on the Bama Central YouTube channel, Bama Central Facebook page. You're listening to us on Apple Podcast, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. on 6635. There we go. There's our picture. 877-787-6635 for all of your roofing needs. Good morning to Keith Connell. Roll Tide from New Mexico. I hope you're doing well out there on the western portion of the country. Hope you're doing well, sir. Thanks so much for joining us. You can join us on the comment section on the Bama Central YouTube channel at Joe Gaither 6 on the social media machines or right there on the YouTube channel as well. You can leave a voicemail at 205-462-7340, extension 800 if you want to be a part of the show. We do have a voicemail from Dax we got over the weekend talking about the transfer portal and what a huge weekend it was for the Crimson Tide in the transfer portal. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about Alabama's victory over Oklahoma. NATO, it's his first win in Norman ever. So coach has been out there, I guess, taking the Crimson Tide out there 3 times, and now is 1-2. Very dramatic, very, very dramatic win. Down at halftime after a really, really ugly final 10 minutes the first half. Couldn't make a bucket for anything, but dug their ways back in and got themselves back on top and back above 500 in SEC play. So we got a lot to talk about today with our man, Theo Fernandez. You can follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez __ on all the social media machines, on the Twitter machine. And yeah, we're gonna have a great time. Theo, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Joe. I'm doing great. Awesome having a long weekend. Chance to, unwind. And then this week's nice and easy with only 4 days. So I'm refreshed and I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. So yeah, yesterday, no show yesterday. If you're like, what happened on Monday? Obviously MLK Day, but more specifically to us, I was driving all day yesterday from Chicago back to the Southeast. Spent the weekend in Chicago. I was at the game on Sunday night. It was wonderful. I want to say thanks to everybody who shot me text messages before the game, everybody who shot me text messages after the game. I know a lot of y'all were pulling for the Bears for me, and so I really, really appreciate that. It was wonderful. Bears lost, but it was just incredible. A lot of fun to be there. I was warm the entire time. I know that whatever they were talking about on TV with the temperatures, I don't know what Tarico finally was. What they said finally was the temperature by the end of the night, but I think on the big screens they were saying it was -5, and I was warm the whole night. I was loaded up with layers on layers on layers on layers, and I was sweating. So it was a great night. Bears lost, but it was just great to celebrate the season there. And so yeah, no show yesterday because of my travel back. And I guess it helped us load up on the topics because there's a lot of transfer portal guys that the Crimson Tide secured on Friday and on Saturday through the day. And then obviously the basketball victory on Saturday as well. Theo, how did you handle or what did you do with your longer weekend?
Well, I watched a bunch of football. I took inspiration from an idea that you gave me. So I got to give people credit. Made a very interesting news package on the legendary Tennessee coach, Pat Summitt, over at WVUA. Alabama honored her and her Alzheimer's Foundation before the game against Tennessee women's basketball. It was a very productive day. I went out. There was a high school basketball classic up in Brookwood. Was filming that. So just a lot of work. a lot of time around basketball. And then, I actually didn't even see Caleb make that throw live because, it was running all over the place. So not a ton of watching NFL just because it was running all over the place, but it was a great work opportunity. So
There you go. There you go. Did our ladies win on Sunday?
No. So
That's 2 in a row now.
it was a absolutely tragic performance, to tell the truth. Alabama was hanging in. Tennessee women's basketball is a very good team.
Sure.
They are a top 10 level team that had some losses earlier, but is phenomenal. And our ladies competed. They held a lead in the fourth quarter and then proceeded to get outscored. I think it was 17-5 down the stretch.
Oh.
Just completely fell apart, but it's a learning experience. In Alabama, they'll be in the tournament. To tell the truth, I don't think they'll be back in the top 25 this year, the AP poll, but it's a capable team that we could see, I don't know, maybe go on a run this year. Christy Curry needs a Sweet 16 appearance under her belt.
Yeah, I agree with that. Did Essence play on Sunday?
No, she's still out, which obviously hurts the team a lot. But
Big time.
Tell you the truth, they're like Jessica Timmons. She is a very similar player in many ways to what Sarah Ashley Barker did last year. If people are familiar with the team, she is just a buck getter. Any juice comes from her making plays out there. So it's a fun team. Her Ace Austin's coming along, but need Essence back. And, you got to win a couple high-profile games like you did against Kentucky a few weeks ago.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. So let's keep it going with basketball. We'll start with Alabama men's basketball because that was the actual action on the court. We'll get to the transfer portal in just a moment. I think we got a Dax on the voicemail line giving us a big old transfer portal breakdown. But Alabama goes out to Norman and plays a disgusting first half, but is able to dig themselves back in, wins the game 83-81. You end up shooting kind of meh 3-point line, 10 of 33. So you were right at 30% from the 3-point line. It was pretty bad in the first half. You got some things going. LeBaron ended up giving you 23. Aiden Sherrill, his second straight game over 20 points. He was 22 on Tuesday against Mississippi State. He was 21 right there on Saturday against Oklahoma. 2 of 5 from beyond the arc for Aiden Sherrill. So you got the big man going from deep. Houston Millette finally scoring from 3 again. He was on a little bit of a cold streak. You didn't have Keaton Bristow. You didn't have Davion Hannah. You didn't have Latrell Wrightsell. You didn't have, obviously, Collins Onyejaka and Davion Hannah. So you're down a bunch of guys again. The health on this team is still a massive, massive, massive issue. But LeBaron gives you 23. Aiden Sherrill gives you 21. Amari Allen and Houston Millette both give you 12 as well. You end up hanging in there and digging them out. You lost the rebounding battle, but it was close enough to where it didn't really impact the game heavily. It was 45-43 on the rebounding battle. You gave up 17 offensive rebounds to Oklahoma for 19 second chance points. That's really the big area that has been on this team. But another poor free throw shooting day. You didn't really shoot the free throws very well against Texas down the stretch the Saturday prior, and you didn't really shoot free throws against Oklahoma this Saturday. 15 of 26 from the free throw line. So that's an area that's sort of slipping on the team, a little bit slipping on the team. The good news is the Crimson Tide gets all week off this week, and they're playing at home on Saturday against Tennessee. And so maybe you get Latrell Wrightsell a little more healthy. I do think Keaton Bristow is a little bit more of a long-term issue. I think Collins and Davion Hannah probably longer-term issues. So tough on the injury front. The week off will help for everyone. You might get Latrell back for this coming Saturday, but how will that impact the rotations? That's going to be kind of the big question going forward. Can Nate Oates get the guys healthy and figure out his rotations with a full complement of players? But the guys grinding it out against 2 former teammates, Mo Wagee, 6 points, and then Darian Reed, 16 points. Darian played so really, really well. 16 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists for former Alabama player Darian Reed. So those 2 guys, Darian especially, was very motivated. You could see that he was pretty motivated to have a nice performance and try to win. But Alabama coming out on top. Theo, what you make of the Alabama basketball game on Saturday?
First of all, really glad Darian was able to avoid what looked like a very, very bad injury.
Yeah.
Seeing him come onto the court, that was very nice to see. That looks scary in the moment. I've never seen a player just fold the way he, like that was, you don't see that often, but glad he was okay. And I was very, very underwhelmed by Alabama's performance.
Mm-hmm.
I was not. The Alabama fans should not be happy with what was put out onto the court by that team. Oklahoma is as close to a mediocre team you're going to see in this conference. They are not good. I mean, 4 straight losses in SEC play. They beat Ole Miss. They had a competitive game against Nebraska earlier in the season. They haven't done much. And I think that, look, Darian's okay. I think Xavier Brown's okay. Nigel Pack is, you got a solid group of players, but just across the board, it's not a great team. It's one of Porter Moser's worst teams that he's had. And Alabama did everything they could to lose that game. You got embarrassed in the first half.
Couldn't make a shot the last 10 minutes. It was really and barely could get a shot up in those last 10 minutes.
And look, that the shots are usually going to start falling at some point for Alabama, and that's why you're able to go into Starkville, get down 15, and come back. It's why you're able to go into Norman and do the same thing. But when you go 15-26 from the line, when we are, for the second time in a week, talking about free throws nearly costing this team, like they did against Texas, it is a real problem. This team really needs this week off, first of all, for the injuries. And I don't know what they're doing at practice. I don't know if they're doing full tackling drills or
UFC fighting.
It's absurd, the injuries that this team has come down with. Let me say, I don't know where this team would be without Amari Allen and Aiden Sherrill right now. I mean, the fact that Allen, as a freshman, 6'8", has had to slide in, really be this team's power forward because no one else knows how to grab a rebound. And Aiden Sherrill is, he's been great on the defensive end, right? Top 10 in blocks. He's a great interior defender. And the offensive output has been nice. He is overperforming right now. And I'd like to think that he can continue doing this for the whole season. But Alabama's in a very scary position where if either of these two guys has an off day, this team cannot compete. It goes from, you got out-rebounded like you did and like you will for most of this season to, wow, Alabama got humiliated on the glass. The free throw shooting is a whole other animal. Houston Millette made a really clutch 3 to go ahead with 2 minutes left, and then a 93% free throw shooter goes and misses one that could have put Alabama up 2 scores. I believe it was, Allen missed one too. He also missed one in the final minute against Texas. That's 2 out of the last 3 games where you've nearly cost the team with the free throw. London Jemison, for the second time in a week, went 0 for 2 in the second half, going to the line and coming up empty. And LeBaron Philon. How do you foul a guy while he's shooting? You guys know the rule has changed. They have the continuation. It's a good rule for the game of basketball. It is the correct rule change, so I don't want to hear any of the complaining about that. I don't know if this is Oates. I don't know if this is Coach Adams not talking to the guys the right way. I don't know if Philon just fell asleep at the wheel. It is inexcusable. It is something that could have, really should have, cost the team the game, right? Pack had a really good look at a game-winning 3 to put Alabama down. And there is very little that Alabama fans should feel good about following this game.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a little something. You're still at number 2 overall in offensive efficiency, and you've actually moved up back in into the top 70 in total defensive efficiency. You're at 66 now. You had fallen all the way, I think, to about 79, so you're back moving up. Now, maybe a little bit of that is Oklahoma's struggles as well. Oklahoma, let's see, they
6
were
24 from beyond the arc.
Oklahoma
Pack went 2 of 10 from 3, 5 of 18 from the field.
Ended with a 1.14 points per possession, so still way too high if you are the Alabama Crimson Tide. You're obviously trying to get that down to 0.6, 0.7. Anything under 1 is a big improvement. So still a lot of work to do. Still a ton of work to do. And I wonder, are the free throws, Theo, just due to are the free throws of the issues that you've seen in the last couple of weeks or 2 weeks, just due to stamina because the bench is shorter. Everybody's playing a little bit more minutes, and at the towards the back stretch of the games, your legs are a little bit wobbly.
I don't know what it is, but it's frankly inexcusable. I mean, LeBaron Fallon is a guy who could be a top 10 NBA draft pick. And you're going 4-9 from beyond the arc here. You missed one against Texas, too. I mean, it's just, what is going on here? Like, Aiden Sherrill.
Does somebody have a breakup?
Well, it's the whole team. That's the thing. Name a player on this team who hasn't missed a free throw at some point that has nearly hurt this team. I mean, London Jemison might be the last guy in the world that I want taking a free throw if my life depended on it. It just can't, has not come through. And Jemison will continue to develop. He had a really rough game here. He's had some rough stretches, but look, I mean, we clearly know that he is a player who Oates really values, and he got the start, right? Like, he can be a big part of this team, but just the free throws overall. Sherrill's had problems. He's kind of turned it around. He's starting to make them more efficiently. Millette is the last guy you would expect to ever miss one in that moment. Give him a little bit of slack there, but just really, really underwhelming. And, you got to imagine that free throws will cost Alabama one or two more potential high-profile wins down the stretch of this season.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens on Saturday when they take on the Tennessee Vols. They'll be playing Tennessee right there at home at 7:30 p.m. You'll be able to follow all the coverage at BamaCentral.com. Alabama's off on Tuesday. They get the midweek bye. Tennessee and Alabama both get the midweek bye. You're right there, one game off of the SEC lead still because you won. You're sitting there 3-2. Texas A&M and Florida both 4-1, and Vanderbilt kind of above you in the standings based on the tiebreaker. So you're really tied for 1, 2, 3. You're really at fourth in the league, tied for fourth. Vanderbilt 3-2. So Texas A&M, huge. I mean, I guess you could consider it a surprise, but Bucky McMillan has won every single place he's ever coached at, and Bucky ball is alive and well in the SEC, pressing people, upping the pace. He takes Nate Oates' pace conversation and I think really ramps it up to a new level. So we'll see what they end up doing. Texas A&M is playing Mississippi State this midweek, and so that'll be an interesting game to keep your eyes on. And you're looking at Florida is playing home against LSU, so they'll probably win. Both teams will probably win and maintain their one game lead on Alabama. Obviously, it's going to get a little junked up with some of these midweek buys, but it is essentially a one game lead. And then on Saturday, A&M is playing home against South Carolina. They'll probably win again. And where's Florida on this? Florida is home against the Auburn Tigers. And so they'll probably win as well. And so tough week for Alabama because you got to get healthy, got to rest, and you also have to hold serve and beat Tennessee at home to keep your eyes on this regular season SEC championship prize.
And let me say, I mean, this Tennessee game,
huge.
There's really no reason to lose it. Like, I look at this Alabama team and the, expectations that exist for this team, and then also just Tennessee and the season they've had. I mean, they had a horrendous second half against Kentucky, against a pretty bad Kentucky team. I mean, they were up 17, completely collapsed down the stretch. They've lost to Syracuse, just lost to Boston College, which, I mean, that's a glorified A-10 team. Like, this Tennessee team is not all that good. They got embarrassed by Florida. They didn't particularly compete against Arkansas. Like, I think this game, as we, have officially eclipsed the halfway point of the season, right? And as we are officially just 2 months away from March Madness. Yeah, no, the round of 32 will be going on 60 days from now. Alabama, we're going to learn a lot about, can this team really compete at the top of the conference? Is it going to be a down year? I could see this team kind of limping in and, we're a 7 seed and into the NCAA tournament. Or I could see Alabama, really turning things around, really taking control of a of an SEC that's much more like the SECs that we've seen in the past, right? Last year was a fluke. It's not particularly elite. It's very winnable. I think if Alabama comes out, takes care of business in a game that you should win on Saturday, we can get back to having conversations of, yeah, Alabama can really compete for this conference. Because you look at the top, I like this A&M team, and I really like watching buckyball, as everyone should, because it's a great brand of basketball. Florida will get back to being elite, especially with Xavier and Lee turning things around. Vanderbilt's not all that good. Georgia is very fun, but very, very fun. But I don't think they can consistently win games at this rate. Arkansas has a lot of flaws. Arkansas got embarrassed by Auburn. This is a conference that Missouri
it's wide
has
open.
A winning record right now.
It's wide open for us.
There is no excuse to not take control of this thing and finish in the top 2 of the conference.
Yeah, it's wide open to be competitive all the way down the stretch. You're just going to have to see if the team can get daggum healthy, not make mental errors, and play hard. I think you do those 3 things, you're going to be competing for conference. Right now, Joe Lunardi, ESPN, Bracketology, Alabama 5 seed, taking on the Liberty Flames in the first round in the Tampa pod in the West region. So if they advance all the way out, golly, San Jose, not pretty expensive trip out there. But you're in the 5. You're in the 5 line right now, according to a lot of the pundits, and you're in Arizona's bracket.
And I look at this team, and not to continue to harp on the negativity with this roster right now, but this has all the makings of a team that could get upset by that really, really good mid-major in the first round. This has all the makings of, oh, man, we missed a bunch of free throws. We made a bunch of dumb mistakes. Our shots weren't falling. Next thing you know, Liberty sends you packing in the round of 64.
Liberty.
Like, I don't want to temper expectations because I know that, and if you've watched this team, you are aware that, yeah, on a day when the shots are falling, you can go into the Garden and beat St. John's, which that's not actually the best example because St. John's isn't all that good. You can compete with Gonzaga. You can play with anybody in the country. The shots aren't always going to fall. There are going to be a lot of problems. I would say this team has a lower floor than we've seen the teams in the past have, but the ceiling does still absolutely remain up there.
Keith Connell, I'm absolutely in agreement, says we may find our basketball team is too inconsistent to win anything that matters this year. I think that's the biggest word right there, consistency, finding some consistency. And I know we've been blaming the injuries a great deal, and I do think that's a legitimate reason for the inconsistencies, but you still need to get more from the players that have been healthy all year. And even LeBaron and Aiden Sherrill have had moments of, I'm cramped up, I'm not available. So consistency and availability and consistency in performance would be, you can improve on those 2 things, then this basketball team can take a step forward. But I do think that what you've been saying, Theo, throughout this first little bit of the show is astute. I do think that you probably need to be, hey, let's not go gamble on Alabama to win the league, win the regular season, win the SEC tournament, go deep in the NCAA tournament. I wouldn't be gambling my money on that. I would be just enjoying the basketball for what it is and trying to see what this team can grow into.
Absolutely. What grade would you give the first half of the season?
Oh, somewhere around a B minus, somewhere around a C plus, because I don't think you've quite failed, but I don't think you've really excelled either. I think that you have had some, you've had some team makeup issues when you think about the rebounding issues that really crushed this team against Purdue and against even Illinois. You won that game, but you did it. You kind of were gotten beat up on the boards. Like I think it took a little bit for Noah Williamson to get to become anything, to become playable. We'll say that, to become playable. And without him, you really had a huge hole in the post. Keaton Bristow's been hurt most of the year. He's had a couple moments where it's like, oh, he looks like he could be really good, but can't be on the floor very, very often. Taylor Boboan, I mean, all the transfers that you brought in, not correct me, who am I missing? All the transfers that you brought in have been extremely inconsistent and extremely like Taylor Boboan. He's had a couple of really nice moments, but he's also had some moments where Coach Oates says, oh, rah, 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 he doesn't get it, rah, 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 he's not playing hard. And so, like,
let me make the comparison, because
is C+ too high? Is B- too high? Go ahead.
No, I think C+ is the right grade. I see a lot of Grant Nelson in Bullbone, in the sense that when Grant Nelson got here to Tuscaloosa, he had some horrid performances that first regular season, right? I mean, he lost Alabama plenty of games. They would go out and it's like, man, this guy just shot a tour date, right? He went like 3 or 14 from the field. He, had some rough moments defensively, and we love Grant now because of what he did in the postseason, right? Because of his ability to elevate to, I'm going to take over this game against UNC. I'm going to will Alabama into the Elite Eight. I'm going to get to the Final Four, and I'm going to go toe-to-toe with Donovan Clingan in the paint. Grant Nelson elevated, but it really did start very rough. So, while I'm underwhelmed in a lot of ways by Bullbone, absolutely understand that there are some comparisons where he could reach, that kind of level. And that's something you just find out in the big moments.
Yeah, I really like the freshman class that you brought in. I really like Amari Allen. London Jemison has given you some defensive ability, but he's been kind of an offensive liability throughout all his minutes so far. And you haven't really seen enough of Davion Hannah. Every time you see Davion out there, he is going balls to the wall, really. But he had the bruised tailbone. Now he's got some medical issue that he's dealing with.
Yeah.
Collins not available. So like the freshman class, even as much as I love Amari Allen, I think he's a huge asset and may end up being a first round pick. I think you wanted 4 or 5% more from the other guys, from the other players. And I think LeBaron is giving you pretty much exactly what you were wanting, exactly what you were asking for from LeBaron. The rest of it, I mean, inconsistencies with Latrell's health and Latrell's shooting, inconsistencies with Houston Millette's shooting, inconsistencies with Aiden Sherrell's play. Aiden, when he's on, as we've seen the last 2 games, can be an extreme asset to this team. So it just shows you, to me, that Aiden Sherrell, like, you need to ask that from him every single time on the floor. I think that C+ is probably where I'd land.
Yeah, I think that Davion and Collins, Oates talked about potentially redshirting them. Just from what I've gathered, I sit next to Davion in my public speaking class, and just from my talks with him, about when he's in return, I gather that we will not be seeing him anytime soon.
Unfortunate,
if at all. So it is a rough, tough to see. Yeah, Davion Hannah is an incredible perimeter defender. He is a tough player. So
is he nice? Is he nice to you in class? Does he speak well in your public speaking class? Did you say it's public speaking?
Yeah, he speaks well. He I don't think he owns a pen or pencil because I've got to lend him one every class, but he's a good student.
There we go. All right, so we'll pay attention to the basketball team the rest of the season. Obviously, we're not going to jump off the track covering the team. They are going to be playing on Saturday, 7:30. So we'll hear from Coach Oates on Friday about noon. We'll get some health reports coming up around Thursday, Friday with some of the SEC availability reports, and we'll see if the Crimson Tide can hold serve. You're going to have to beat Tennessee because A&M and Florida have 2 winnable games on midweek and on Saturday. So you're going to have to beat Tennessee to hold serve with those 2 teams. You still get to play Florida. You still get to play Texas A&M, but you want to be holding serve so that those games can matter.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a transition to the transfer portal and to the voicemail line. We've got our man Dax, who has called on the voicemail line, broken down some of the portalees, and given us his thoughts on how the staff is doing with the additions and the exits. You can call the voicemail line at 205-462-7340, extension 800.
What's up, guys? It is Dax been a good while since I called. I've decided to keep my mouth shut this entire portal, but the portal's done. We can still sign some people. You just can't get in. Thankfully, we didn't lose any like super key pieces to next year's team, and I think the staff has done a really good job of pulling in pieces that we do need that we lost. I think we've done really good on the replacements along the D line. 100% good with the replacements on the O line, especially that Cal Poly guy, Rayson Delgatti. I really like the 1,300 plus snaps and only one sack, and like a couple of, no more than a couple of QB pressures. But like that boy's gonna be good. Our O line, I've said it multiple times, can't get worse than it was this past season. And if it is, we're going 6-6. So, I'll give this portal grade for us so far. We've still got some more people to sign. We just got Umeliuwazuzu or whatever his name is, a good edge out of South Carolina. I think I'll give the portal grade I'll give it a B so far. Maybe B plus. I go with that staff. They're really good evaluators. We really don't know really how good this portal class is going to be till we see them hit the field. But I think it's going to be pretty good. But the Moneyball approach, not really Moneyball, but like spending a lot of money on the Cam Coleman's of the portal. I think it would be an awful idea for us to do that. Think about Texas. They spent however much money on Cam Coleman. He's probably making double than what their highest paid wide receiver is making. What does that do to that wide receiver room and the morale that the entire team has? It's like, some random, Cam Coleman's not random, but like some dude that hadn't even been here the whole time. This is his first year and he's already getting paid double the amount that I'm getting paid. What is this? I think spending big money on all of these recruits is not going to end up well for all these schools. And also, Texas obviously has more than $20 million on their, technical salary cap. I heard Miami was offering Ty Simpson $6.5 million. That's more than a third of your revenue that you're allowed to give your players from the school. So, spending big money on recruits, I think or transfers is probably the worst idea that you can have. And especially since those transfers are making more than their worth too, because all of these colleges are wanting them, so they can just start an auction more for themselves. I'm glad we're not spending big money on recruits on transfers. C.D. Morgan probably cost a pretty penny. So did Jira Edwards and Xavier Griffin and all them, but I think they want to come play for the University of Alabama. As we can see, all of the DeBoer guys so far have been fairly decent ball players. Fairly decent to really, really, really good. I'm excited for this next year. I think it's going to be better. The offensive line is really what we're going to be looking at. They've been hyped up for the past 6 years. Not 6. Yeah, 6 years now. It's 2020. Wow. And they've gotten worse every year. So let's kill the hype, everybody. I told you at the beginning of the portal we didn't need to worry, and look where we're at. Good evaluations. We didn't spend a pretty penny on any of the transfers. I think the locker room is all good. No toxicity. Kind of glad we didn't land some others because we saw how that turned out. I don't want somebody like that in the locker room to begin with. And we're returning the most important pieces like Bray Hubbard and Deontay and Robley Keon. Still have Ryan Williams. Thank the Lord. This man's going to have a crazy junior season, and I hope nobody has hopped off the Ryan Williams train because he had a sophomore slump. But yeah, there's my 5-minute recap of the portal. So hope y'all have a good Monday. Roll Tide.
Old Tide, Dax on the voicemail line. What do you think here, Theo? Let's transition into football with the transfer portal and some of these things that Dax was talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole idea of you know, using the analogy of NFL free agency, they've always described it as you're paying A tier money to B tier players, right?
Yeah.
It's what the transfer portal is naturally becoming. And then also to a point that Dax, man, do you see the thing with LSU or Ole Miss NIL contracts allegedly getting leaked?
Tampering, and they're getting out, and the locker room imploded, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you're in a situation where the information isn't, actually leaked, those guys have to have some kind of, idea of what their teammates are making, or like, yeah, wait, this guy's definitely getting paid more than me. He just came in here, so I understand. And I think, may not have fully appreciated that take when we last talked here about this on Monday, but yeah, I mean, I think there is definitely a point to making sure you have a locker room that is balanced, where no one is, envious over the money that certain players are getting paid, or, oh, why is this guy getting paid more than me? Or why did you guys need to bring this guy in and pay him more than half the people in this room? Like, we've been here. So yeah, it's hard to argue with any of that.
Yeah, so Alabama really shored up the offensive line this weekend. You've gone from 12 to now 15 scholarship offensive linemen with the additions of Rayson Delgatti out of Cal Poly. You've added Ethan Fields out of Ole Miss. Maybe he was one of the disgruntled few. We don't know. And the Crimson Tide added Nick Brooks from Texas, and really, your offensive line is looking, I think, fairly solid. You basically brought in 5 new guys that all have experience. Those 3 guys come and join the portal class of Ty Haywood and Caden Strayhorn out of Michigan. And so, really, you look at the offensive line, you basically start with Michael Carroll, and every other position is up for grabs, in my opinion. And Michael Carroll, you get first crack at right tackle, but if one of these jokers is better than you, then maybe you get bumped into guard, or maybe you don't have your spot. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think you need to be open to pretty much anything at this point along the offensive line. Because while I do think you need to be loyal to Michael Carroll, and I do think you need to be loyal to the class of 25ers and the class of 24ers that are still here, your William Sanders, Casey Poe class, and the 25ers that is Jackson Lloyd, that is Michael Carroll. Obviously, you lost Micah DeBose, but you still have Mal Waldrop from the 25 class. So I do think you need to be loyal to those guys, but the offensive line was so bad last year. You couldn't run the ball at all in critical downs, and really at all and ever. But you couldn't run the ball consistent with any ounce of consistency. I don't really think your loyalty to the guys that are already there supersedes, hey, best 5 players play. And I think Coach DeBoer's probably in the camp that I need to protect my investment and protect my children that are named Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. So the best 5 players are playing. And so it's going to be, I think the offensive line is going to be a pretty wide open competition. I do think that you could probably put Rayson Delgatti in pencil in the center position, wait to break out the pen and to rewrite over his name until we get to fall camp. But in pencil, I would pencil him in. I would pencil Will Sanders in at left guard. And then I would say Ty Haywood. I would say Ty Haywood, Jackson Lloyd, Nick Brooks are your left tackle candidates. I'd probably lean Nick Brooks from Texas, but Ty Haywood and Jackson Lloyd. I mean, we've liked Jackson Lloyd since he came to campus. Are your left guard candidates, and then right guard is probably Caden Strayhorn and Ethan Fields going head to head. And maybe Ethan Fields challenges Will Sanders, and maybe Will Sanders challenges Caden Strayhorn at right guard. I think there's going to be a total open competition along the offensive line. But what I do think you have right now is an offensive line that has a lot of potential and a lot of, okay, if they get it right. And like Dax is absolutely right. We are not going. Last summer, I was proud of the fact that we kind of pumped the brakes on the offensive line hype. And I can't speak for Theo, but I will continue to poo-poo the we have the best offensive line in the SEC. We have the best offensive line in the country. Top 5 offensive. No, I will poo-poo that. I will say they could be. I will say the potential is there if they're coached well and if they work hard, if they find continuity, if they play with cohesion, then yeah, the potential is there for them to be a good offensive line. You see tools, you see players, you see talent, but it's got to all come together. And Alabama has not had it all come together along the offensive line. I agree with Dax. Since about 2020, I think Bryce Young, you won the Heisman Trophy running for your life in 2021, and I do think Brian Robinson had a nice rushing season. Isn't Brian the last Alabama running back to go over 1,000 in a season?
Yeah, that sounds
so.
right.
I think that was 21 as well. Really, since then, you haven't run the ball right down a mother bleeper's face like you've wanted to. You know the meme, run right through a face, run right through the face. You haven't done that with any sort of consistency in years. And so I think there's a huge challenge to these offensive linemen, but I think now from a numbers standpoint and from a room composition standpoint, you've got about 3 or 4 linemen who can both who can, hey guys, these are our potential starting left and right tackles, Michael Carroll included. You've got about 4 or 5 guards that could, hey, we're going to find 2 guards out of here. And you have probably 3 center types with Race Nogati leading the way. I do think William Sanders and I do think Caden Strayhorn are potential center types as well. You've got Casey Poe still in the room. Is he going to be vying for one of these guard positions? I don't think he's going to be vying for one of these tackle spots. Is Mal Waldrop going to recover well and play one of these tackle spots or be playing one of these guys? I think you've got about 4 guys who can play tackle, about 4 guys who can play guard, and about 3 or 4 guys who can play center as well. And so right now, as it sits in January, I think you're moving on in the portal unless something wild happens, like Jordan Seaton wants to come for $1, Bob. I mean, that's not going to happen. But you look at the money spent in the offensive line, you can see the money and the allocations and resources spent. And I don't think that we paid offensive linemen XYZ in the portal $3 million. I don't think any of these guys that came in got $3 million. I think they all got paid, market value, but not enough to disrupt the chemistry in the room. I think that I'm cautiously optimistic about the offensive line.
Yeah, as optimistic as we can realistically be following the season that was had, right? That's the best way to put it, I'd say. I do wonder, and we will have a lot. I mean, I forget how long the offseason is sometimes and just how much time we'll be able to spend breaking down every potential position and who's going where and all that. But you have a lot of guys who I think are capable of tackling. I look at, Jackson Lloyd, right, and the size that he brings and I believe he was the number 12 offensive tackle in the class. And he's spent the whole year learning behind Caden Proctor. Feels like someone who can and should be sliding in at tackle this year. And Haywood brings about a certain level of, hype, probably the most hyped up of these offensive linemen that you bring in. I almost wonder if Michael Carroll, who I thought was a good tackle, I mean, he's a guy you recruited as a guard, right? He was the number 1 interior offensive lineman. Your ceiling in the NFL is through the roof as an offensive lineman. I wonder if that will be considered as a move at all, sliding him in at one of those guard spots.
I do think that will be considered. He was asked about moving positions, and now obviously things could change, but he indicated that he wanted to stay at right tackle. He wanted to stay at right tackle for the next 2 seasons and wanted to be 3 seasons and on to the draft. You have 228 days until Alabama kicks off on September 5th against Eastern Carolina.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this all ad nauseum over the next few months, and especially when we actually get some input from a coach about how these guys are doing. But yeah, it's hard to feel disappointed with how the portal went. And you look at some of these guys, it's inevitable that Alabama brought in a couple players on this offensive line who just won't really see the field.
Sure.
Right. It's the same as an Ola Salinan or as a Joe Ionata. Like, hard to say. Did you upgrade? Did you downgrade? Doesn't matter as far as those depth pieces go. I don't feel bad at all about the job that was done.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and do a backflip because I want to see production on the field, but I think cautiously optimistic is the right emotion to feel about how the offensive lineman that you replace kind of the losses with. And obviously they're going to have to gel. They're going to have to be put together. They're going to have to stay in shape. They're going to have to play with better pad level as on the whole this coming season. Like if they play with better pad level and if they play with my friend John Cena's tagline, ruthless aggression, then I do think that they will be at least a little better in the fall.
Agreed.
All right, so let's move to the defensive side. But before we do, we want to remind everybody the program is brought to you by Purple Turtle Roofing. You can call Purple Turtle Roofing at 877-787-6635 for all of your roofing needs. At Purple Turtle Roofing, we're not just another contractor. We're your neighbor and your advocate when it comes to protecting your home or business. With years of hands-on experience, top-tier certification, and a commitment to excellence, we've built a reputation as Alabama's go-to roofing solution. We specialize in residential roofing, commercial roofing, emergency storm repairs, full-on roof replacements, insurance claim support, and more. So call them today at 877-787-6635 for your free roof inspection. Purple Turtle Roofing, they'll come out, they'll check out your roof, make sure that you're good to go, and give you the peace of mind that you deserve in your home. Call them today, 877-787-6635. That's Purple Turtle Roofing. All right, Theo, the last couple of days of the week last week, we talked about Terrence Green, and we talked about Terrence Green transferring from Oregon and being in the portal, and we talked about him being on a visit on Friday. Well, Alabama landed the plane. I think as much as you're cautiously optimistic about the offensive line, I think you should be fairly excited about the defensive additions in Terrence Green, and help me say this young man's name, Desmond Umeozulu.
Oh, yeah.
Umeozulu.
I tried to take a crack at that. We were talking about it with the girl who was anchoring. I don't know for sure.
I typed it in. I heard it about 4 different ways. And I heard the South Carolina radio man on a sack calling him Dez getting in for a sack. Desmond Umeozulu, and then, of course, Terrence Green are your 2 defensive line additions over the weekend. And while I don't think you're turning down any defensive help if you can find any over the next couple of days, I think you may be set there as well, because I do think Terrence Green is going to come in and basically help you fill the Tim Keenan nose tackle plugger role, because he is a big dude. 6'6", 320 in that range of a player. Yeah, 6'5", 330. Is what Hunter DeCiver wrote on BamaCentral.com. 6'5", 330, and then Desmond Umeozulu, 6'6", 240. And you were worried about the bandit role, the bandit position. I think Desmond Umeozulu is going to probably slide in as your starting bandit. Yeah, I was pretty concerned about, you lose LT, you lose Keon Keeley, you lose Jordan Renaud, you lose Kelby Collins. You didn't really have much bandit help, but right there. And so I think that you get Desmond Umeozulu. You add Caleb Smith, right? A couple of days ago from Washington by way of Birmingham. You bring in Kendrick Bingley Jones from Mississippi State. You've got Terrence Green, and then you've got all the young boys. London Simmons, Edric Hill, no longer a young boy. You've got London Simmons, Isaiah Faga. I think Steve Bolo-Bumois is going to actually get some playing time. Fatutu Henry also going to be playing some bandit as well. am a little past cautiously optimistic about the defensive line. I'm not quite too excited. I'm not quite too beating my chest over them because I don't think that that's quite fair. I think that's overselling the potential and the talent in the room. I do think they're talented guys, and you never know what can happen over the next 228 days. But I think I'm just a little past cautiously optimistic to where I think, oh, you've got some tools now in this defensive line room to where I think that you're at least at a place on both offensive and defensive lines where you're not sweating. When the transfer portal was kind of starting, was kind of getting going, and you're seeing all these exits, and you weren't seeing a whole lot of incomings. I was starting to sweat because, I still think the game is played on the trenches along the lines. You've got to move the man in front of you to win this game. And so when there weren't a whole lot of action going on both sides, I was starting to sweat a little bit. I'm no longer sweating, and I'm starting to feel like, okay, we're going to be competitive. I mean, the back end of the defense is going to be really good with a lot of experience. The second level has a lot of youth, but a lot of talent. I think the defensive line is now at a point where, okay, you can be competitive in this SEC.
Yeah, you're not sweating. I don't know if I feel quite as good about it as you do.
Sure.
And admittedly, I watched film on a bunch of the linemen. I have not really had the time to get to anything on these two new additions, but you had really significant losses up front. There's no getting around that, right? And I think I would feel more comfortable with, let's go and get ourselves another guy, to come in and be a scholarship player on this front seven. The secondary is going to be phenomenal, right? We know that Yonsei Pierre, I think, should, by all accounts, come back and just be a monster, right? Like, he could have the highest sack total Bama players had in a couple years. He could really just be a beast rushing the passer. And I guess to that point, I also trust a Womack defense to be efficient, right? I trust a Womack defense to do what it needs to do. I don't know how I feel about Freddie Roach and the development of these players, which is a question mark. I know we talked a few weeks ago about maybe we'll potentially see a coach or two get moved on from once the portal closes. Where do you stand on that now, Joe?
I'm less sure on it. I'm less confident on that. I was pretty confident that after the portal was going to close, you might have seen some coaching changes. That's when you were going to see some coaching changes. I'm much less confident that anybody is actually going to get moved on from or get changed. And I'm kind of in a place where you can sell me either way on it being a good thing or a bad thing for Alabama, because you could sell me either way on it being a good thing or a bad thing for Alabama, because you can go, oh, continuity, the team and the staff didn't have all their guys, didn't have the right kinds of guys. I mean, with the offensive line, the whole angle was none of these guys fit the system. And okay, maybe that's true. Maybe that is true. None of these guys fit the system. We want to get offensive linemen that fit our system. So I mean, you can feed me that line of thinking, and I can say, okay, well, you're bringing the offensive line back, and you actually have guys that fit his system and fit the way that Alabama wants to do its offensive line. There was rumors, and I don't want to even really substantiate them by saying they're true because I don't know, but there were rumors that Coach DeBoer was maybe going to move on from the two former Nick Saban assistants, Robert Gillespie and Freddie Roach. I don't really feel like that's going to be the case anymore. I think that Freddie Roach is a great recruiter. I do understand and recognize the development has been a little bit of a question mark, but you've also seen Freddie Roach go from coaching one style and technique under Coach Saban to let me adapt and flip and coach a different style and technique under Kane Womack. I think that's a pretty big challenge. I think that Robert Gillespie is a really good recruiter. I think he is not one to do a whole lot of media, so there's a little bit of is he a good? Is he a nice guy? Is he a good coach? And the running back room was a pretty big problem this past year. But I think the offensive line was a much bigger problem. I think the offensive line was a bigger problem, and I think the wide receivers didn't block very well at all. I don't think as much as we like Josh Cuevas. I don't really think you had a dog blocking a tight end either, like you did with Robbie Ewitz and C.J. Dupree the prior year. And so I think the entire blocking was pretty atrocious in the run game, and thus I don't think the running backs got a fair shake because how do you trust? Hey, it's off tackle to the right. Is the hole going to be there? Should you be looking for the backside? Should you be looking to cut it back? When should you be like? Can you trust the man in front of you to get his block? I think it's pretty tough to run the football when you cannot trust that the play called, the play design is going to be as it should be. And so I don't really think that moving on from Robert Gillespie is really fair. I don't think that's a fair take at all. So I guess to me, you ask how I feel about it. I think it's pretty unlikely that you're moving on from anybody. And there's a huge side of me that believes in continuity and believes in consistency. And hey, let's let's build on what we did last year. Let's not tear it all down. My biggest question mark is still offensive line and offensive line coaching. But I think with these 5 new transferees and a bunch of incoming freshmen and a chance to see Jackson Lloyd, a chance to see second-year Michael Carroll, I wonder if when you get different body styles in there and different people in there, if the results will be a little different. So I don't really think you pin me down, gun to my head. I don't think you're going to see any coaching changes.
Interesting. Just wanted to hear the perspective there. Throw you on a little tangent. But
yeah.
Back to what we were talking about with the additions, I think I'm almost willing to say that I'm more confident in the offensive line additions than the defensive line. Okay. I think is where I'm at. I think I am on paper underwhelmed. But I think with both, I mean, they're projects, right? It's stuff that we won't really know for so long. And I'd still stand at, I'd like to see another addition made on the defensive end.
If you can find the right guy, then I absolutely think that you keep, you don't turn down talent at this point. If you find the right guy and you can make the money work, I don't think you turn down any talent if you can help it. All right, let's finish up with this, Theo, because our man Hunter DeCiver just put this out. Last night's national championship game. Congratulations, Kirk Cignetti, Indiana, and really congratulations, Miami. I think that they acquitted themselves very well. I thought, and I thought that look, you get a punt blocked for a touchdown. It's basically you're going to lose at basically an 85% clip. You're going to lose. They tried to overcome it. They battled well. They acquitted themselves very well. And whereas Indiana beat the absolute dog mess out of Oregon and out of Alabama, Miami stayed in there and made the game and was throwing virtually towards the end zone as time was going out. Got the interception. So Indiana is your national champions, and the entire sports media world rolls right into 2026. Despite the fact that no roster is finalized, every roster is up in the air. You got all kinds of coaching, coaching movement still kind of happening. But you have to have the Monday or the Tuesday after the national title game, some way too early polls come out. And Sports Illustrated has Alabama, way too early poll, number 15, ESPN, number 21, The Athletic, number 20, CBS, 15, USA Today, number 11, Yahoo Sports, number 12, Fox Sports, number 20, On 3, number 17, FanSided, number 15. So no publication has the Crimson Tide inside the top 10.
It's hard to argue with any of that right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to sit here and get,
tell these boys no one believes in them all summer.
Ranking. Yeah, let these guys get some motivation because you have there are a million different reasons to be outside the top 10, right? And you've got so many question marks, and you've got people doubting the program for reasons that are valid. Go out and prove them wrong.
Another 4-loss season incoming.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to sit here and say that that's not a possibility, right? We know it is.
I mean, you're right. You
right?
can't.
Like, we know that, yeah, this same thing I talked about basketball, right? The floor has been lowered for this football program.
But the ceiling is still the roof.
The ceiling is the roof. Quote the great Michael Jordan. You can go out and compete at the highest level. We talk about these additions. These additions were made because these are guys that Alabama thinks can help lead this team back to them. The standard has not changed. The rest of the college football world has changed. The guy running the program has changed. There are a lot of factors that we've talked about with the transfer portal and with, the fact that an Indiana can compete for a national championship, which, by the way, I think is incredible. I still think is awesome. You talk about a phenomenal story. Does it get any better than what we saw last night with Mendoza winning a 2-star QB in his home city?
It
with
gave
the
you
worst program ever. That's as good as it gets.
It gave you the Heisman Trophy moment on that draw.
Yes.
That 4th and something draw, 4th and 4 draw, and he's getting banged around, and he just stays on his feet, dive for the end zone. I was like, yep, that's it. You see it right there. I was always emotionally moved for that at that point.
I've seen people talk about it on Twitter, but that should absolutely be a statue outside the stadium.
For Indiana, it should be.
That should be there. What a moment. But yeah, look, I mean, talk about how much college football has changed. Alabama, it's a symbolically a big year, right? It is almost has the feel of put up or shut up. If you have a third straight season in 2026 of not seriously competing for a championship, right?
I mean, you seriously competed. You were in an SEC championship.
You're in an SEC championship.
You were seriously competing. You made the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and there's a difference, right? Like you got embarrassed in the quarterfinal. I think if you have another year like that, then any talk that exists right now of Bama's dead, it's over, that just reaches a whole new level plane of existence in a year if you have another season like this. Not to put pressure on the program, but that's just where it's at right now.
Well, we'll find out, and we'll cover it all. We'll be back to talk to you on the Joe Gaither Show on a Wednesday. We appreciate everybody joining us on the comment section. Keith Connell, I appreciate you hanging out with us, sir, on YouTube. I appreciate Dax. You calling us on the voicemail line at 205-462-7340, extension 800. Feel free to leave us a comment throughout the day if you're watching this or listening to this later, or if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, you know where to find me at Joe Gaither 6. We appreciate everybody who has subscribed, rated, reviewed the show, sent the show to their best friends, and tried to share the show and help us out. We will talk to you on Wednesday. We're having a lot of fun. It's going to be a great off season. I guess we should start the countdown. 228 days until Alabama kicks off against Eastern Carolina. It'll be here before you know it. And we'll talk to you again on a Wednesday on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com.